Hey there gamers, DreamcastGuy here, and today we're talking about Elden Ring Nightreign because I just had a chance to play a couple hours of the beta before the servers completely exploded, and I have some thoughts, both very good and surprisingly bad, because as a big fan of FromSoftware and as a person who's completely obsessed with Elden Ring, I think it might be one of the best games of all time, I feel like this game is really not going to be for some people. And it's going to be some people's favorite game of all time, but let's talk about why it has such a big disparity in the fan base. I hope you're having a great day, and if you could, please give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. So, first and foremost, I probably look a little bit tired. This beta ran from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. So I got up at 4 a.m., I chugged a bunch of coffee, I made sure my install was correct, and I managed to play it between big server crashes. But I'm going to use very long gameplay clips in this because honestly, everything just kept breaking. The big problem with always online stuff, obviously the second the server stopped working, it instantly implodes. So this gameplay was recorded on a PlayStation 5. So let's start with what Nightrain is and why I feel like some people are going to get so addicted to it. So this is a multiplayer roguelike. It takes place in the lands between. It's the same map as Elden Ring. A lot of the bosses are very familiar, the monsters, locations. It's stuff you recognize, but the randomization of it is what makes you want to keep coming back. So in Nightrain, you have two teammates. These can be your friends or it could be random matchmaking. But when you drop into it, the goal is to panic, to scrounge, to scrape together as much XP, power bonuses, and weapons before each night comes, because there's this slowly shrinking circle. It manifests as like basically this rain that's got blue fire beneath it, and it slowly pushes you towards a particular quadrant of the map, and when the circle closes, it spawns a boss, a mega boss. And so the goal is to try to survive 3 nights, fighting progressively tougher fights, going against tougher enemies, and even crazier fights. But what's cool about this is that while you're playing, you really do get a chance to kind of figure out how your character is going to develop by fighting mini bosses you come across, by going into mini dungeons and stuff. You can find different weapons, different bonuses. By killing stuff, you can get these randomized power-ups, things like extra stamina recovery or more immunity, particular debuffs and stuff like that. And so while you're playing it, there's this duality of, okay, I want to not panic too much. I want to be patient enough to not skip past a very important chest, or if I spot a random vendor, I want to take that chance to try to buy some upgrades or buy some crafting materials and maybe buff one of my weapons or something like that. But at the same time, you do have to run. This game, the time between each of the nights is about 10 minutes. A full run of this game takes about 35 minutes, and it's a very panicked 30 minutes. This gameplay clip I'm using here is about 20 minutes long. It's me trying to survive the first night and a little bit of day 2 as best as possible. But while you're playing this game, I feel like what makes it feel surprisingly different from Elden Ring, even if you are very, very used to it, is the new speed of it, in that your character has infinite sprint, and not only that, you can run pretty much the freaking speed of your horse Torrent. In the main campaign, obviously, we had Torrent the horse. You can now just like run the speed of Torrent. You can also do this like double jump when you're against walls. If you see those like leap pads you would use in the main game, you can now just use the leap pads to fly to very high up territories. And there's also no fall damage. So you really do feel encouraged to hop on stuff, to drop down, to explore, to kind of just see what works and what doesn't. And I like that because you kind of have to rewire how you think about Elden Ring. It's had times where like I really was afraid to throw myself off a cliff because I wasn't used to it yet. But once I kind of adapted to this much faster speed of traversal, I enjoyed it because you can rush into an enemy camp, start wiping people out, get tons and tons of experience points, and try to move to the next objective. But this does bring me to the part of it that does kind of concern me, which is that I can't tell how much the map is randomized. Every run I played, we dropped into the exact same spot. You don't really get a chance to choose where you're going. It's not like Fortnite where you're falling in with a glider and you get to fly to, the part of Loot Lake you want. You drop into the same spot every time, at least in this beta test. Now, the bosses are randomized, the buffs are randomized, but the enemy placement, the camps, the churches that you can visit that actually give you extra flask bonuses so you can get even more healing, that stuff doesn't feel randomized. And kind of my concern is that if this game stays static, if the map is not procedurally generated in any way, I do kind of feel like there's going to end up being those optimal routes that people just do every single time. Okay, we need to hit this site of grace. We need to kill this mini boss. This gives us this amount of XP. I think when roguelikes work the best is when everything is as randomized as possible. The maps, the locations, the loot, the chest, the monsters. And so right now, at least in this beta test, it feels surprisingly static. It does feel like where you're having to go, what you're having to do, there is a correct route that people will definitely figure out. But let's talk about the classes. So instead of making your own custom character the way you do in typical Elden Ring, in this there are 4 separate classes in this beta test anyways. They did say there's going to be, I think they said 8 classes at launch in the game when it launches at $40. And then there's going to be more classes released later like as DLC. But the 4 classes they have here are the Wilder, which is like a kind of your all-around character, your jack of all trades. This guy has very balanced stats. He's very quick, and he does have a grapple hook that allows you to either pull weak enemies towards you or pull yourself towards strong enemies. There's the Duchess, who plays a lot like a Bloodborne character. She's got like the little skip dash from Bloodborne. Her special ability is turning herself invisible. She can also power up her knife. Every character has like a super ability that slowly charges up. The Recluse is the magic user. I'll admit it, I could not figure this out at all. She has like ability to like suck in magic and then blow it out as like combinations. Could not figure her out. I'll have to watch a tutorial video when someone figures that out. And then the Guardian. This is like the tank class. They've got a big, huge shield. They've got by far the most health. And they have a super ability that lets them fly up in the air and crash down. So these different characters are all strong. But the character progression, what I think matters most is that as you're going around, even defeating these mini bosses on the map, like the big crazy laser beam flower thing, they give you a lot of XP. And by going to a campfire, when you stop at a bonfire, it refills your health, it refills your flasks, and you can just straight level up. There's not an ability to pick particular stats. Getting stronger, though, is important. It buffs your stats a lot, and a lot of times it enables you to use the stronger weapons in it. So when you find weapons, a lot of times they have level requirements. You can't use them at level 1. But here is the part I think is going to be the most addictive for me, which is that you can carry 6 weapons at a time. Each weapon has passive bonuses. Like at one point I found a sword that actually did lightning damage. It doesn't just affect that one blade, it affects all of your blades, meaning that you could actually pick up stuff that does different stagger amounts, extra defense amounts, extra parry amounts. You can take all of those passive bonuses and stack them up, meaning that part of your build really does come down to the weapons you pick up. Now, each weapon also has its own Ash of War, which is like a special attack. Now, in the base game, you could basically customize those. In this version, you don't really have a lot of those patient moments of reflection that I think make Elden Ring great. In this, you're constantly having to rush. You're constantly having to figure things out. You're constantly saying, okay, grab this and go, grab this and go, grab this and go. And I do feel like the part of this that I am the most concerned about personally is that I think this does need to have voice chat, or you do need to be playing this with your friends, because what every team needs is a shot caller. If you've ever played an MMORPG, there's a guy whose job it is, especially in like a raid or something like that, to kind of say, hey, target that, hey, let's go there. Since the map is so big, since stuff is so randomized, I feel like people do need to kind of be running around and checking all the areas at once a bit, but there needs to be a guy who says, all right, it's time to get up and go. And while you can mark stuff on the map and stuff like that, it just felt like a lot of times during this, everybody was in a mix of scrounging, of freaking out, and trying to adapt. And so because of it, when we got to big bosses, even if it was a boss we've all fought hundreds of times in the past, because it's like the demi-humans from the base game and stuff like that, a lot of times it was still trying to figure out, okay, how the hell do I do this with my buffs? I can't talk to them. I don't know what their benefits are. I can't see their gear. I don't know what their build is. So it made it where when people died, I really couldn't tell what mistake we had actually made. Now, when people do get downed, you can pick them up by stabbing them on the ground. It revives them. So every time you get downed, people can melee you, or ranged attackers can like shoot you and stuff like that. And when they do that, it refills your health. You can jump back up. You got 3 downs before you die. If you die, you're not permanently out. You respawn, but you lose 1 level. So I did die at one point, and I did lose a level. And when I did, I noticed that I didn't lose my gear. I was using a level 3 weapon. I died at level 3. I was level 2. It was still allowing me to use it, and it still had all the passives and everything. So you're not getting completely screwed, but every level you get does dramatically boost your stats. It does give you a lot more strength, a lot more mana, a lot more health and stuff like that. So I almost feel like I'm curious to see how much the meta of this evolves. I think I am also a bit concerned about the idea of this game dying. I mean, I know it's not even out yet. It comes out on May 30th, so it's not even out to die yet, but I guess I'm always concerned with permanent, forced multiplayer games that someday the servers will get switched off. If this game is not a huge hit, if people kind of burn out of it, am I going to be able to get a match in a year? Am I going to be able to play it in 6 months? Now, the way this gets easier as time goes on is that whenever you finish a run, whether you win or whether you lose, you get these things called relics. They're like more permanent stat buffs. You can basically slowly upgrade your character to be better and better and better. So even if you are really dying a lot early on, just by kind of pounding your head against it, you will improve enough to eventually, hopefully succeed. But these have just been some off-the-cuff thoughts after playing about 90 minutes-ish of it. You know, servers kept crashing, 3-hour beta, about 90 minutes of crashes, but it was fun. I definitely want to play in the other beta test sessions they have going on this weekend, but tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you excited for Elden Ring Nightreign, and does this video make sense, or am I too sleep deprived? Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And most importantly, keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, you know, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.